3 years after graduating college, I had two major achievements to be proud of. First, through hard work and a bit of luck, I had built my own company from the ground up, amassing millions in assets in just 3 years. Second, I had married Elena Vance, the most beautiful girl in our graduating class. Over those 3 years, I had transformed my innocent college sweetheart into a stunning, elegant woman who turned heads wherever she went. As the saying goes, you can't have your cake and eat it too, but I often secretly congratulated myself on having secured both a thriving career and a perfect love life. However, today, as I sat in an upscale coffee shop in downtown Manhattan waiting for a client, a casual glance out the window completely altered the trajectory of my life. Bored while waiting, my eyes drifted to a woman walking past the entrance. She was wearing a fitted black top, a white pencil skirt, and black stilettos, elegant and tall. My eyes lit up instantly. Wasn't that my wife, Elena? What was she doing here? Just as I was about to stand up and call out to her, I saw her face light up with a radiant smile as she threw her arms around a boy who couldn't have been more than 20. I froze, unable to process what I was seeing. By the time I snapped out of my shock and sprinted to the cafe door, Elena and the young man had vanished into the city crowd. I stood at the entrance, paralyzed, my mind replaying her smile and the embrace she shared with that stranger. Carter? You zoned out. A voice broke my trance. The man calling me was Julian Thorne, the client I was meeting today, a young heir with a background similar to mine in age, but with wealth far surpassing my own. I shook my head hard, forcing myself to calm down, and walked back to our table. Julian was a critical account. Whether what I just saw was a hallucination or reality, the most important thing right now was closing this deal. After nearly 2 hours of negotiation, Julian and I finally reached an agreement on the key terms. Declining Julian's invitation for dinner, I pulled out my phone and called my wife. It went straight to voicemail. I drove home like a madman. I had originally told Elena I had a client dinner and wouldn't be back until after midnight. If that woman earlier wasn't her, she should be home now. It was only a little past 8. However, when I burst into the house, it was pitch black. The sprawling living room was empty. I collapsed onto the sofa, forgetting even to turn on the lights. At that moment, I felt as if my heart had been hollowed out. I sat in the dark for nearly 3 hours before I finally heard the front door unlock. Click! The living room lights flooded on, revealing a woman with exquisite makeup and elegant posture standing before me. Carter! Seeing me sitting in the dark, Elena was visibly flustered, her hand flying up to cover her mouth. If this were yesterday, I would have rushed to hug her. But today, I had no interest in her gestures. I stared at her black tight top and white skirt. It felt like a bucket of ice water had been dumped over my heart, chilling me to the bone. Elena seemed to sense something was off. She walked over, sat gracefully beside me, and spoke softly. Honey, what's wrong? You look terrible. I forced a smile, my voice raspy as I masked my emotions. Nothing, just a long day. By the way, I just got back. Where were you? Hearing that I had just returned, I felt her visibly relax. She gently looped her arm through mine and cooed. I just went out to buy a few things. I didn't expect you back so early. I thought you'd be out until past 12. Asking when she got back was a test, and she failed. She lied to me. Watching her feign innocence, I thought darkly, what kind of shopping requires dressing up like that, and takes over 3 hours? I knew if I pointed out her lie, she wouldn't admit it. She'd just gaslight me. To catch a thief, you need the goods. Without concrete evidence, she would never admit to the affair. Besides, deep down, part of me didn't want to admit it either. Maybe today really was just a misunderstanding. I tried to comfort myself. I didn't say anything else, used work exhaustion as an excuse, and retreated to my study. Over the next few days, I began to scrutinize her every move. Perhaps sensing something, she became unusually attentive, coming home on time, buying me clothes, and cooking delicious meals, things she rarely did before. This sudden shift in behavior only highlighted her guilt. At the same time, I noticed she was incredibly protective of her phone, taking it everywhere. Once, while she was showering, I tried to unlock it but failed after several attempts. I maintained a poker face, acting normal to avoid alerting her. I had to find out who that man was and exactly what their relationship entailed. After careful consideration, I told Elena I had to go to Los Angeles for a business trip. Then, I set my plan in motion. I installed a GPS tracker on her car and booked a room at a hotel near our house. From this hotel room, I could see our balcony clearly. On the 5th day of my fake business trip, I noticed she hadn't come home by the afternoon. I checked the tracker. To my bitter amusement, her car was parked right in front of the hotel I was staying in. After a moment of thought, I went downstairs to the cafe across the street and waited. 1 hour, 2 hours. Just as my patience was wearing thin, my eyes widened. I saw Elena and the man from that day walk out of the hotel, arm in arm. As the man got into the car, he gently stroked her hair. In that instant, my heart turned to stone. As this humiliating scene burned into my retinas, I fought the urge to rush over and beat them both to a pulp. I gripped my coffee cup so hard the veins in my hand bulged. Years of business experience told me that exposing her now would solve nothing. It would only let this cheater walk away with half my assets. Watching my wife drive off with her lover, I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. Elena, an eye for an eye. If you can play games, I can play them better. I dialed a number. It was Mike Russo, a contact I'd made in the business world. Mike used to be a cop, but quit to go into private security for better pay. He thought his connections would make business easy, but he nearly drowned in the corporate world until I threw him a lifeline. Mike had been indebted to me ever since. Now it was time to call in that favor. Mike was fast. He arrived at my hotel 30 minutes later. Flashing an expired badge, he smoothly secured the security footage of my wife and her lover in the hotel. Then, calling in favors from active duty friends, he dug up the man's identity and family background. Mike was a pro. He sent the files to me right there and then deleted them from his own device. Carter, who is this kid? You digging this deep usually means trouble, Mike asked curiously as we sat in a smoky diner later. I was glad Mike didn't know Elena. Although, with his detective's intuition, he probably suspected something. But since he played dumb, I was happy to let him. Being cuckolded by the person you love most isn't exactly something to brag about. I replied flatly. Nothing much, just doing a favor for a friend. Mike gave me a knowing look, but didn't press. We shifted to talking business. After dinner, I returned to the hotel alone and opened the file on my phone. Jax Miller, male, 21, fitness trainer. Frank Miller, Jax's father, 41, owner of small convenience store. Brenda Miller, Jax's mother, 41, unemployed. Staring at the data, I fell into deep thought. My friends always said I had great luck, which explained my early wealth. I admit luck played a part, but my success also relied on one key trait. I was always rational, planning my moves before acting. I believe this was the foundation of my success. Before, I used this trait for business. Now, I would use it against the people who humiliated me. This shame had to be washed away with blood. I spent 3 days laying out a trap for my wife and her lover. I believed that once this game started, they would have no time or energy left for their affair. 3 days later, I returned home. Elena's concern was as performative as ever. I accepted it all without a flinch, but claiming exhaustion from the trip, I didn't touch her. Meanwhile, Frank Miller was having a great week. 2 young men had started frequenting his small convenience store, spending lavishly. Soon, Frank was calling them brothers. In less than 2 weeks, these new friends spent thousands in his shop. This sudden windfall delighted Frank Miller, but it also piqued his curiosity about how these young brothers made their money. His convenience store barely cleared $100,000 a year in profit, and he was bored with the grind. As they grew closer, one night, after several rounds of drinks, the 2 men revealed their method to Frank and agreed to let him in on a deal. Drunk and greedy, Frank agreed without thinking twice, handing over his bank account details. Soon, $200,000 hit his account. Frank only had to transfer $190,000 to a designated account. The remaining $10,000 was his fee for the labor. This process repeated several times. In just over a month, Frank pocketed $50,000. The money came too easily, and Frank lost all vigilance. He had no idea that I was the one pulling the strings from the shadows, and those 2 brothers were just actors I had hired. While Frank was walking into the trap, I wasn't idle. I transferred my entire company to my father's name and, through clever accounting, moved my liquid assets. Currently, the only asset I legally held was the house I shared with Elena. Over this month, perhaps sensing my physical distance, Elena was on her best behavior, coming home on time. Several times, she wore lingerie to seduce me, but I rejected her with a polite smile and excuses of stress or illness. As I prepared to close the net on Frank, I accelerated my plan for Elena. I rented a luxury penthouse in the city's most exclusive neighborhood, telling Elena I was planning to buy it for her. Amidst her excitement, I smoothly got her to sign the papers to sell our current home. The proceeds, of course, were funneled away through legal channels. But that wasn't enough. Her lover had to pay in blood, and so did she. While Elena was dreaming of high-rise living, I used her identity to take out $1 million bank loan under the guise of business capital turnover. Then, I took another $1 million from a loan shark. She hesitated, but under my sincere persuasion and the beautiful future I painted, she signed. Those $2 million also vanished in his safe accounts. 49 days after I discovered the affair, $1. $5 million landed in Frank Miller's account. Just as Frank transferred the money and was celebrating, the police arrived at his store. They took him away on charges of money laundering and aiding criminal activities. The day after Frank was arrested, Elena told me she had to work late. I smirked internally, ignored her excuse, and hung up. I knew she was meeting her lover to discuss his father's arrest. While she was working late, I had my own appointment. Lately, I had been getting very close to Elena's younger sister, my sister-in-law, Chloe Vance. Before, I loved Elena deeply and never looked at Chloe inappropriately, even when she lounged around my house in oversized t-shirts. But now, if Elena could cheat, so could I. Recently, I had bought Chloe the latest iPhone, designer clothes, and sent her generous red packets of cash on WeChat. These gestures made Chloe, a college senior with a taste for luxury, ecstatic. She texted me constantly. Once, I sent her a transfer of $520, a number signifying "I love you" in Chinese slang, claiming it was just spare change I needed to clear. She accepted it without hesitation. Tonight, while Elena comforted her lover, I sat in a high-end restaurant looking at the beautifully dressed Chloe, a wicked smile playing on my lips. "Elena, my dear wife, you give me humiliation." I returned the favor. Chloe was 3 years younger than Elena, but taller and more curvaceous. In the mild September weather, she wore a black tank top under a white blazer and tight black pants. She looked like a mix of youthful brightness and sophisticated allure. I chuckled internally. She was copying Elena's style, specifically an outfit I had once praised Elena for wearing. It seemed my financial bombardment had planted certain ideas in this girl's head. Good. It saved me effort. "Carter, bro, this place is so fancy. I've never been anywhere like this," Chloe chirped, her voice crisper than her sister's. My heart trembled slightly at her voice, not out of love, but because her tone was exactly like Elena's on our first date. I made a decision instantly, forcing myself to remain calm. I looked at Chloe with deep, melancholy eyes. "Chloe, there's something I've been thinking about for a long time. I don't know if I should tell you." My voice was low, my demeanor depressed. This piqued Chloe's curiosity. She had never seen me like this. "What is it? Tell me," she said, her voice dropping into a coquettish whine. I leaned in, my voice dropping to a whisper, so she had to lean forward, giving me a view down her top. "Chloe, your sister is cheating on me." "What?" Chloe gasped, then quickly covered her mouth. I didn't give her a chance to speak. I suspected it before, but today she said she was working overtime. I called her office. "She's not there." I paused. "Right now, she's probably with her lover." I stopped there and downed my glass of red wine in one gulp, immediately refilling it. Chloe didn't dwell on the affair. Instead, she whispered, "Carter, don't drink anymore." Chloe was sharp. She had already dropped the bro and switched to using my name more intimately. She placed her small hand over my glass to stop me. As I tried to lift it, our hands touched. "Chloe, is my money not enough? Is the house not big enough? Why would she do this to me?" I asked, holding her hand, my voice thick with feigned despair. I said this deliberately to remind Chloe of my wealth, letting the seeds of greed sprout in her heart. What young girl doesn't love luxury? Hearing my words, Chloe unconsciously tightened her grip on my hand, as if holding onto her future. "Carter, no matter what, stop drinking. It's bad for you." She didn't defend her sister once. Sigh. I let out a long breath, playing the heartbroken man perfectly to trigger her maternal instinct. Then, I placed my Mercedes key on the table and slurred, "Chloe, you drive back. I don't want to go home and see your sister tonight. I'm leaving." I let go of her hand and moved to stand up. "Where are you going?" Chloe sounded panicked. She grabbed my hand again. I feigned drunkenness. "I booked a room at the hotel upstairs. I'm going to rest." I pulled away and stood up, stumbling slightly. I grabbed the table just in time. All an act, of course. Seeing me almost fall, Chloe rushed to support me. "What's the room number?" "I'll help you." Success. I smiled internally. Room 707. Room 707 was a luxury executive suite. As soon as we entered, I collapsed onto the sofa, pretending to be out of it. I could feel Chloe struggling internally as she stood over me, her eyes darting around the opulent room. Finally, making up her mind, she slowly helped me, the drunk, onto the massive bed. As the night deepened, my phone rang periodically. I knew it was Elena, so I didn't even look. When I woke up in the morning, I looked at the sleeping girl beside me. Chloe had worked hard last night. Some might call me cruel, saying I should target the wife, not an innocent girl. But I disagreed. If Chloe wanted to blame someone, she could blame her sister, and I would Guide her to do exactly that. I checked my phone. 16 missed calls, all from Elena. From 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. She called every half hour. The first call was at 10:20 p.m. It seemed she and her lover, Jax, were too busy discussing Frank's arrest to have sex, so she went home early. It was 7:50 a.m. I slowly got out of bed and headed to the shower. Last night had been crazy. When I stepped out of the bathroom, Chloe was awake. Seeing me, she squeezed her eyes shut, blushing furiously. I walked over, wrapped my arms around her, and whispered, "Chloe, don't worry. I'm going to divorce your sister soon." She nodded slightly, a shy smile appearing on her face. But she was getting ahead of herself. I said divorce. I didn't say I'd marry her. Leaving Chloe to rest at the hotel, I drove home, using work as an excuse. Elena had just called twice more. I wanted to see what the cheat was so desperate about. I walked through the door at exactly 9:00 a.m. Elena was sitting in the living room, hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot, staring at me. "Carter, why didn't you pick up? Where were you last night?" She shot up and marched toward me, her voice a mix of panic and accusation. It was the classic defensive offensive, using anger to mask guilt. Looking at her mess of hair, I didn't offer my usual comfort. I said coldly, "What? You can work overtime, but I can't." I emphasized the word overtime. Her aggression evaporated instantly. She froze. "Honey, what do you mean? You've been so cold lately. What's wrong?" She switched tactics, her voice turning soft and pleading. She knew fighting wouldn't work, so she played the victim. I used to fall for this. But now, since she wanted to play soft, I'd play along. I let a small smile touch my lips. "Work has been crazy. I saw you called a lot. Something up." Seeing my attitude soften, she reached for my hand. Almost instinctively, I shook her off. The rejection stunned her. She looked at me, eyes welling up. Seeing her tears, I felt a pang of phantom pain from the 3 beautiful years we'd had. But then I thought of the betrayal, and my heart hardened again. The arrow had left the bow. The revenge couldn't stop now. I sat on the sofa, acting nonchalant. "If you have something to say it. I am tired." She stood there, tears rolling down her cheeks onto the floor. I leaned back, closing my eyes, indifferent to her performance. Whether her sadness was real or fake didn't matter. She had trampled on my dignity. After a long silence, she choked out, "Carter, what is happening with you? I called because I care about you. I'm your wife." She sobbed out words she thought were caring, unaware that my heart was sneering. I stood up slowly. "Thanks for the concern. If that's all, I'm going to the office." She looked at me in disbelief. Combining this with my disappearance last night, her guilty conscience must have been screaming that I knew. Otherwise, I would never treat her tears with such indifference. But since I didn't say it, she didn't dare ask. She had to lie to herself that I was just stressed. As I walked past her, she grabbed my left hand, her eyes full of fear. I smiled faintly, said nothing, and peeled her fingers off mine one by one. I walked out without looking back. I wasn't some fool trapped in love, nor was I a savior. In my book, betrayal was absolute. Once unfaithful, never trusted. I left quickly because I had an important guest today, Jax's mother, Brenda Miller. With Frank arrested, Jax and Brenda were running around like headless chickens trying to find help. I was certain Jax had asked Elena last night to help bail out Frank. If I had been home, she would have begged me for help. My cold attitude today was a preemptive strike to shut her mouth. Brenda was equally desperate. With Frank gone and the store seized, she lost her husband and her income source. During my 3 days at the hotel, I had arranged for a street-smart woman named Linda to accidentally meet Brenda at a mahjong parlor. Linda bragged about her connections. So, when Frank got busted, Brenda immediately called Linda. Linda was just a pawn. She knew nothing of my real plan. I paid her to tell Brenda that I had the power to fix legal problems. Today, Linda brought Brenda to my company. Linda tactfully left us alone. Brenda wore a tight black top, skinny jeans, and brown boots. Simple, yet stylish. Aside from slight lack of refinement, her body and face were impeccable. I finally understood why some historical figures had a thing for married women. "Mr. Sterling, did Linda tell you about my situation?" Brenda asked nervously. Seeing me staring, she relaxed slightly. She recognized the look of greed and desire in my eyes. She was confident in her looks. She decided right then that if I wanted that, she would do it to save her husband. I smiled confidently. "Ms. Miller, Linda told me everything. I can help." Her face lit up with joy. She had been rejected by everyone else. But my next words cut her celebration short. "Ms. Miller, the state is cracking down hard on money laundering. If you want your husband to walk away clean, You need to repay every cent that passed through his account. Otherwise, I let the threat hang. Brenda paled. The police said Frank moved about $3 million. She couldn't pay that even if she sold everything. And if she sold the house, where would she live? Mr. Sterling, I really can't raise that kind of money. Is there any other way? She stammered. That makes things difficult. I leaned forward, elbows on the armrest, scrutinizing her. My meaning was clear. Even a girl like Chloe would understand, let alone a seasoned woman like Brenda. Mr. Sterling, please help me, she begged. I stopped playing games. I can cover the money. Really? She interrupted, excited. I smiled, eyeing her up and down. But how do you plan to pay me back? She froze. She knew what I meant, but feared I was tricking her. I pulled a stack of cash from my drawer. Ms. Miller, you understand me. If anyone else said they had no money, I'd have kicked them out. My time is money. But your elegance stays my hand. Hearing the compliment, she eyed the cash on the desk greedily. Mr. Sterling, what is this? I want you to be my secretary. This $20,000 is a sign of my sincerity. Also, if I fail to handle your problem, the 20 grand is yours to keep. Brenda's eyes lit up. She wasn't a naive girl. Her son was 21. Lowering her standards slightly could net her $20,000 and save her husband. How could she refuse? Though willing, she maintained a facade of reserve, stealing glances at the money. I pulled a box from my drawer, stood up, and walked over to her, placing a hand on her shoulder. She trembled, but didn't pull away. No rejection meant consent. I leaned down and whispered, Brenda, even though we just met, I feel like I've known you forever. I felt her tension melt. I opened the box to reveal a diamond necklace. Her eyes widened in pure greed. She'd only seen diamonds like this in shop windows. Originally intended for Chloe, I decided to use it to conquer Brenda completely. Diamonds are a girl's best friend, especially for women of her age. I fastened the necklace around her neck, my fingers brushing her cheek. I could feel her heart racing. An hour later, Brenda and I walked out of the office. Her face was flushed, and she walked unsteadily. I hadn't pushed her all the way yet. I just made her my secretary. For the next few days, I didn't go home, dodging Elena's calls with work excuses. I spent my time with Chloe or handling business. A week later, after Elena's incessant begging, I returned. Elena looked nothing like her usual glamorous self. Her eyes were swollen, her skin dull. She had been living in terror. Exactly what I wanted. I smiled faintly. Elena, you look rough. No overtime lately. I enunciated overtime clearly. She shuddered, not even noticing I used her full name. Carter, I. Her voice was filled with panic and frustration. What's wrong? Why such a reaction to overtime? You love overtime, don't you? My tone was mocking, but in her panic, she missed it. No, I don't. She stammered. I sat on the sofa, watching her unravel. I've been busy. Why were you calling so much? Something up. Seeing me relax, she tried to grab my hand. I instinctively shook her off. She froze, looking at me with tear-filled eyes. A twinge of pain hit me, but I steeled myself. Spit it out. I'm tired, I said, leaning back and closing my eyes. She stood frozen, weeping silently. Finally, she broke the silence. Carter, what is wrong with you? I call because I care. I'm your wife. I stood up slowly. Thanks for the concern. I'm going to the office. She looked at me in shock. My indifference confirmed her fears. I knew, but she didn't dare ask. As I passed, she grabbed my hand, looking terrified. I smiled coldly, peeled her fingers off one by one, and walked out. I rushed out because I had an important guest, Brenda Miller. With Frank formally arrested, Brenda and Jax were desperate. I knew Jax had pressured Elena to ask me for help. If I'd stayed home, Elena would have asked. My coldness silenced her. Brenda was equally frantic. I had set a trap. Linda, the friend I planted, had told Brenda I could fix anything. Today, Linda brought Brenda to my office and then left. Brenda looked good. Mr. Sterling, did Linda tell you? I smiled. She did. I can help. But the government is strict. You need to repay the stolen funds. Unless what? Unless you have another way. She hesitated. I don't have money. Please. I can pay it, I said. But how will you repay me? She understood. I put $20,000 on the desk. Be my secretary. This is a signing bonus. She accepted. I put a diamond necklace on her. An hour later, she left, flushed. A week later, I met Brenda at a hotel. She told me Frank had been formally charged. She wasn't as worried as before. My money and gifts distracted her. But then her phone rang. Jax. She told me everything Jax said. She wanted me to hurry up and save Frank. She was greedy. I would get every penny back with interest. Back at the office, I threw an envelope on the desk. Look, Brenda opened it. Photos of Jax and Elena. Jax. She looked confused. I took these before we met, I lied. The woman in the photo. Her husband is powerful. He hired me to investigate her. He doesn't have these photos yet. I grip my chair. If that woman helps, getting Frank out is easy. Will her husband hurt Jax? Brenda asked, worried about her son, not Frank. If he finds out, well, I let her imagine the violence. What do? We need leverage on the woman. Force her to convince her husband to save Frank. Leverage? Brenda looked lost. You figure it out, I said darkly. She thought for a moment. Like, a sex tape? Finally. You said it, not me. But be smart. Don't make her an enemy. Make a deal. I can't ask Jax to do that, she hesitated. Talk to him. If you need help, call me. Can you talk to him? She asked. Perfect. Sure. I'll meet him at the hotel. 2 hours later, I met my enemy, Jax. He didn't recognize me. He called me Mr. Sterling. I laid out the plan. Film a sex tape with the woman to save his dad. He agreed without hesitation. I smirked internally. Elena, this is the man you chose. Jax left. I went to the Hilton to meet Chloe. A week later, Jax sent the video. I stared at the file, hands shaking. I didn't open it. I threw the phone down and wept. I wished it wasn't real. But reality doesn't care about your wishes. I sat there all afternoon. Finally, I stood up. Elena, Grinda, Jax. You will all pay. I saw a text from Elena. Mom's birthday is in 2 days. I ignored her but texted Chloe. Pick you up in 2 days for Mom's birthday. For 2 days, Elena blew up my phone and even came to the office. I dodged her. 2 days later, I drove Chloe to her mother's house. I parked just as Elena pulled up in the Audi Q3 I bought her. Chloe tensed. I put a hand on her shoulder. Elena got out, dressed up to hide her exhaustion. She smiled when she saw my car. Carter, she started, then saw Chloe get out of my passenger seat. Chloe walked to me. Cease. I held Chloe's hand. Elena stood, shocked. You too. I sneered and walked past her with Chloe. Stop. Elena screamed. Carter. Chloe. What are you doing? Chloe turned. Sis, you and Carter are over. You have someone else. Why pretend? I mentally applauded Chloe. What's someone else? Carter and I are fine. Elena yelled, raising her hand to slap Chloe. Slap. I caught her hand and slapped it away. Is Chloe wrong? My overtime-loving, gym-going wife. Elena collapsed. Carter, listen. I ignored her and walked inside with Chloe. We entered the house. My mother-in-law, Martha, welcomed us. She was a retired teacher, a good woman. Today, I would destroy her daughter in front of her. As Martha brought fruit, Elena walked in, eyes red. Elena, what happened? Martha asked. Elena ignored her and walked to me. Carter, don't listen to rumors. I didn't cheat. She was betting I had no proof. Elena, Carter, what's going on? Martha asked, worried. I looked at Elena cold. Still lying? I didn't do it. I had dinner with a friend, that's all. You're holding Chloe's hand. Elena, shut up. Martha scolded. Admit it, I said calmly. I didn't do it. I smiled. I turned on the TV and synced my phone. The video played. Martha and Chloe gasped. Elena saw the screen and collapsed. Turn it off. Turn it off. She screamed like a banshee. Martha looked for the remote. I had it. Elena grabbed a cup and threw it at the TV. Smash. The screen went black. Silence. Carter, I'm sorry, Martha said. Mom, she forced me. What now? Martha asked. Divorce. She goes her way, I go mine. No. Elena screamed, Knillings. Carter, forgive me. I was going to end it. Please. She hugged my leg, snot and tears ruining my pants. Elena, let go. Martha ordered. No, I'm sorry. Martha slapped her. Hard. Stand up. Elena stood, trembling. Carter, Martha said, shaking. This is her fault. But the video, where did it come from? Smart woman. I patted my pants. I bought it for $5 million. $5 million. Chloe gasped. Someone blackmailed me. I lied. I had to pay. We were married. Call the police. Chloe said. No. Elena screamed. The blackmailer has copies, I whispered. If we call the cops. Martha slapped Elena again. And again. How much filth have you brought into this house? I don't know. Elena sobbed. Martha fainted. Mom. I helped Martha to the sofa. She woke up and knelt before me. Carter, please. Help her. If this gets out, she's dead. Perfect. I helped Martha up. Mom, you don't know everything. When I found out, I was devastated. Chloe was there for me. So, you too. Martha looked between us. Mom, I only got with Carter after she cheated. Chloe said firmly. Elena turned purple. I can help Elena. I said. But as a brother-in-law. What do you mean? The blackmailer got paid. He won't leak it yet. We have time, but I need to be single to protect my assets and handle this. Divorce? Martha asked. There's a waiting period. I have friends. We can do it today. I won't divorce. Elena shouted. Listen to Carter. Martha yelled. No, it's his fault. He's with Chloe. Martha slapped her 5 times in a row. Elena's face sulid. We're going now, or you are not my daughter. We drove to the courthouse. I revealed I had no assets. The car was the company's, the company was my dad's. Elena got the Audi and the debt. She was too shocked to argue. We divorced. Mom, want a ride? She can't get in my car. I said. We'll take a cab, Martha said stiffly. I drove to the office. Tonight, I had to entertain Julian Thorne, and I was bringing Brenda. I told Brenda she had to sleep with Julian. What do you think I am? She refused. 10 grand bonus. No. 15 grand. 20. Cash. Deal. That night, Brenda pleased Julian. I got a better contract. I also asked Julian to ensure Frank got a maximum sentence. He agreed. The next day, Jax called. Elena had confronted him about the video and the $5 million. I denied leaking it. He also couldn't find his mom. Brenda came into the office that afternoon, disheveled. She cursed Julian. I gave her an extra 5 grand. Her phone rang. It was Jax. Mom, that woman saw the video. She says I blackmailed her husband for $5 million. Don't worry, I told Brenda. Elena is lying. Tell Jax to relax. Brenda believed me. Now, only Elena and Jax were left. A month passed. I stopped paying rent on Elena's apartment. She moved in with Martha. The $1 million loan came due. Elena had no money. I dropped Chloe off at Martha's. Elena blocked me. Carter, we need to talk. Sis, move, Chloe said. Carter, the loan sharks are calling. Why didn't you pay? Not my loan, I said. Ask your lover. He took the $5 million. Stay away from us, I said, leading Chloe inside. Loan sharks painted red paint on Martha's door. Martha was hospitalized. Elena was breaking down. I tracked Elena's car to a pharmacy. Then another. I went to Martha's. Elena was sitting on the floor, manic. Carter, I was wrong. She hugged my legs. I patted her head. I love you, Elena. But every time I see you, I see him. As long as he is alive, we can't be together. As long as he is alive. She muttered. I left. 2 thugs with red paint buckets went upstairs. I heard Elena scream. Brenda was now addicted to gambling. I took her to Las Vegas. She lost everything. She was ruined. Elena went to meet Jax. They reconciled. That night, Jax never woke up. Elena called me, laughing. The obstacle is gone. I called the police. Elena had ground up sleeping pills, put them in Jax's drink, and smothered him with a pillow. N9, merged/concluded, Elena was arrested. Martha fainted. I refused to see Elena. Brenda disappeared into debt. I focused on business. My company grew. Eventually, with Martha's blessing, I married Chloe. Revenge was over. A new life began. Story complete.